Christmas is now less than 2 weeks away. Are you panicking? You shouldn't be, but you might be. And today we're going to talk about lessons that we've learned from Hallmark Christmas movies.
You're listening to the Wellness Simplified podcast. Simple wellness tips to help you improve your life without turning it upside down. With your host, award-winning fitness instructor, nutrition coach, and wellness expert, Susie Phoebens.
Welcome to the podcast, and before we get into today's hot topic, I want to let you know that this is going to be the last episode for a few weeks. I'm going to take a couple weeks off over the holidays so that I can sit down and enjoy and cut out some of the extra stuff that I do so that I can spend more time with the people I care about, and that is a pretty good segue for today's episode. Anyone who knows me knows that I've had Christmas movies on repeat since the day they premiered back on November the 1st. In fact, there is one on in the background right now. I have just muted it in order to record this podcast episode. So I thought it would be fitting for my last pre-Christmas podcast episode to talk a little bit about what we have learned from Christmas movies, and more specifically, Hallmark Christmas movies. People joke about the fact that all Hallmark movies are basically the same. They have the same couple dozen actors, and it's the same premise. You can see where it's going almost immediately. And honestly, that is the draw of Hallmark Christmas movies. You know that it's going to end up with a happy ending. You know that the main girl, usually, sometimes boy, is going to get back together or get together with a small town person or someone who makes them feel the way they want to feel. And they're probably going to change their life so that they're making less money or they're doing something a little bit less prestigious in order to seek out happiness. And isn't that really an extremely fitting theme to have for holiday movies when we are trying, maybe not so successfully so, trying to move back to a less commercial holiday? At least I am, where you're spending more time with people. You're giving the gift of your time and your heart instead of the gift of just money. And I think that's what Hallmark does really, really well. They know how to hit you right in the feels, and they know how to make you remember that the meaning of the season is not the big fancy gift under the tree, but it's the people who are sitting around the tree instead. So that is the number one lesson that we have learned from Hallmark movies, if we hadn't already learned it, that it is the people and not the presents that really count during the holidays. Another thing we've learned from Hallmark movies, I think, is that traditions matter, and they matter more now than ever because we are in such a rapidly evolving world that it's easy for things to fall to the wayside and get lost in the shuffle forever. Those traditions that our grandparents maintained throughout their lives, after they're gone, sometimes we lose them, and these Hallmark movies really show us how important those traditions are to both our holidays and our family history. And those traditions aren't going to look the same for every family. Every family has their own. And if your family had a tradition growing up that you loved that's sort of fallen to the wayside, maybe this is the year that you pick it up. It doesn't have to be some big sweeping tradition. It can be something as simple as getting a new book on Christmas Eve for everybody in the family, or a new pair of Christmas socks or pajamas, or having a specific meal on Christmas Eve, whatever it might be. Having your own traditions or creating your own traditions are what's going to make it really special for you and your family. Especially, as we get older, we don't really want all these gifts. We don't want all this miscellaneous stuff, but we do still want to have the magic of the season. And that is where traditions really, really play a big part in our enjoyment of the holiday season. So the second thing we have learned is that tradition really matters. And if you're feeling kind of like you've fallen out of the holiday spirit and you are not really feeling the holidays this year, maybe it's time to implement a new tradition in your life or in your family so that you can maybe bring a little bit of that cheer back. The third thing that we have learned from Hallmark Christmas movies is family is what you make it. Family isn't always people who are related to you by blood or by marriage or by law. Sometimes your family are just the group of people that you have cultivated around you that care and love one another and take care of one another, but have no actual heritage relation whatsoever. Family is what you create. It's not necessarily what you're given. So if you're somebody who doesn't have any close family or any immediate family, that doesn't mean that you don't actually have a family. You need to go out and find those family members. Maybe you already have them, you're just not thinking of them as such. I definitely consider my closest friends family, and I am closer with them than I am a lot of family members. In fact, in my phone, in case of emergency, I have my husband, I have my parents, and then I have a couple of my best friends listed as the people to contact if somebody finds my person and I have been in a situation, because they know what to do, they know what I can and cannot have, and they will make sure that I'm taken care of. Family is what you make it. So don't feel down if you don't have family surrounding you. Gather your friends, maybe reach out to neighbors who are possibly in the same situation as you, and you can create your own family and start a new tradition. Look how we just tied 2 and 3 together. And this final lesson is one that I heard in a specific movie last week. Actually, it was a movie when I told my husband, like, this movie is so sickening sweet, I don't know if I can even watch it. However, there were 2 main characters, shockingly enough, and the male main character was going to make a gift for the female lead character, and he was going to hand make it. And he decided like a week or so before Christmas, like he was undertaking way too much. There was no way he could get it done. And there was this kid who was hanging around, and he was like, but if you had to do it, how would you do it? And he was just like, I can't do it. I don't have enough time. And the kid's like, yes, but if you absolutely had to get this done in the next week and a half, how would you get it done? And within 2 or 3 minutes, they figured out how they could get it done in a week and a half. And it wasn't by working around the clock. It was by hiring somebody to do part of the work for them, but then he would do the rest of it on his own. And I just love that so much. It was not brand new advice to me. I have heard that before, but it was refreshing coming from what I considered a sticky, sickly sweet Hallmark movie, that this kid was saying, you know what? If you had to do this, you would get it done, and how would you get it done? And that is a really good reminder that when we get ourselves in these situations where we have something that needs to be done and we feel like we can't get it done, we always find a way. But when we have something that we want to get done and it seems like we don't have enough time, we will use excuses to get in our way. Of course, there are certainly times when you need to just pause and say, you know what, I just cannot do this. I just cannot do this. It is not realistic. But there are other times where if we pushed ourselves a little bit to think outside of the box, we could solve a lot more problems than we give ourselves credit for. So I am adding that in as a bonus. We're going to say that this episode is 3 lessons that we learned from Hallmark Christmas movies, and that is your bonus tip. So the 3 lessons we have learned from Hallmark Christmas movies. Number 1, who's around the tree matters a whole lot more than what's under the tree. So being with people whom you love and make you feel happy is so much more important than earning boatloads of money in a job that doesn't fulfill you. The second thing is traditions matter. Holiday traditions and just traditions in general, they really are what make life special. I have ornaments and things on my tree that I have had every single year for as long as I can remember, and that might sound boring to some, but to me, that is all in the joy of the holiday, is seeing these things that I've collected over my life so far and getting to enjoy them again. And the third thing that we've learned from Hallmark Christmas movies is that family is what you make it. It's not necessarily your actual relatives, but the people around you that you've created a community with, that you've created a family with. And then that bonus tip is, when you're feeling really bogged down with something, like next week when you're feeling bogged down with getting everything done before Christmas, some of those things you should be able to chuck right off that list. But those things that you really need to get done, before you get too exasperated, stop and think, if I needed to get this done, because you do, how would I get it done? Maybe you're going to have to hire your niece or your nephew or your little cousin to come up and help you wrap presents or help you with Christmas baking. You might need to farm some of the things out, but how would you get it done if you needed to get it done? That is it for this week's episode, and this is it for the last episode before the holidays. I'm not going to say the last episode of the year because I might squeeze one more out before January hits, but I hope you have an absolutely magnificent holiday. And I hope that you have traditions that you hold dear, that the people you care about are going to be around your tree, and that you are going to be able to share it with family and friends. Thank you so much for listening this year. It's been an absolute pleasure launching this podcast this year, and the comments and texts and messages I get about the episodes really, it means so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You all are around my virtual Christmas tree for sure. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday, and I will talk to you in a few weeks.